Hello everyone and welcome back to Beginners with Bob. In our first two videos we talked about posture, the position of our violin, having that good hand shape, elbow swinging, placing the fingers on their tips, freedom in your shoulders, and of course not gripping that instrument, not squeezing between the thumb and the first finger. So we're going to move on now, and the focus of today's video will be to combine some of these elements from the first two videos, and we're going to look at finding the notes on the four strings of our violin. I've really enjoyed watching your videos on Twitter. You can keep using the hashtag #BeginnersWithBob to post more clips of you trying the exercises that are in any of my three videos, and I'll be sure to give them a watch. Inner hearing is all about hearing sounds in our heads. We want to hear the notes we want to play before we actually play them. Okay, so I'm now going to play four notes in the D string, D, E, F sharp and G, and then afterwards I'd like you to try that. So now that we've played those notes, we're going to try singing them. So let's begin by getting the sound of our D string in our heads. And then we'll start from there. And we can take it a step further. We can use a language called solfa, and we can give each one of those notes a name. So there's our do sound. Do, re, mi, fa. You try. Now let's try it this way. So I'm going to play the D string. I'm going to hear that sound in my head, and then I'm going to sing that sound. Do, I can check it. Do, then I'm going to hear the next sound in my head, re, and then play. Re, adjust if you have to. Next sound, mi. Don't be frightened to move that finger around, hoover it around till you find the right sound, the sound that's in your head. And then finally, fa. Making sure you hear each note in your head before you play it. Okay, I would now like you to try going straight from your open D string to finding finger number 3. In your solfa, that's going from do to fa. Have a listen. And if you have to adjust that third finger, adjust it. Do, fa. Again, play the do. Hear the fa in your head, fa. And if it's out of tune, just slide the finger gently, hoover it up or down till you find the right sound. You try that now. So why are we finding that third finger on its own instead of simply just playing O, 1, 2, oh there's my third finger there? Let me tell you why. Well, basically it's all down to that hand shape again, and the fact that we don't want tension in the left hand. If I place my third finger, I've really got to get used to that moving first finger where it can extend back, and even the second finger, but mainly the first finger, rather than placing the first finger and then thinking about stretching the fingers out, which can lead to a really bad hand shape. And just to expand on that, if my third finger's in a nice shape and it's comfortable, it's easier to find the fourth finger, and it's very good for beginners to use their fourth finger as soon as possible. So there's no feeling of the fourth finger stretching out like it would if you started from finger 1. A great exercise for establishing that hand shape and getting the third and fourth fingers comfortable is to use what we call in the violin harmonics. If you place your third finger very lightly on the D string and move the bow quite swiftly, we get a very high pitched sound, and then you can put the 4 on, lift the 3, swap them over, just tap very gently, and you can try in any string, drop your bow, move your elbow. You can even drop the 4th finger on and swing across the strings, 3rd finger. And those are called harmonics. And remember, we're not pressing our fingers onto the string, we're just touching the string very, very lightly. And the bow arm and the left arm are moving together in parallel with each other. Just like so. Now let's return back to our sol fa. We've previously covered do, re, mi and fa. Now we're going to look at the last 4 sounds, sol, la, ti, do. So here's our do, re, mi, fa on the D string. So will be the A string, moving the arms. La, ti, do. Notice there's 2 do's. One's low, one's high. The distance between those 2 notes is called an octave. It's called an octave because in total there are 8 notes between the low D and the high D. Now that we're on the A string, we can do the same exercises we've done on the D string. Don't forget to sing your notes out, hear sounds in your head. Don't be frightened to sing, and enjoy. Okay, so let's put all those notes together now. Let's start on the D string, the low do, up to the high do on the A string, and then we'll have built a D major scale. It should sound like this. Elbow under, quite a high arm for the D string. Move those arms. And now going down. Move the arms, find the 3rd finger, and one goes back. Lots of you may have played that scale before, but it doesn't do any harm to go over it again, really concentrating on your technique, what the arms are doing, what your fingers are doing, what's your bow doing, and remember, really focus on your tuning. We can build a scale starting in any note of your violin, but there are rules we have to follow. These rules are about the distance from one note to the next, which will either be called a tone or a semitone. When the fingers are close together, it's called a semitone or a half step, and when they're spaced apart, it's called a tone or a whole step. So going back to our D scale, if we start on the D string, we go a whole step up to the 1st finger E, a whole step up to the 2nd finger F sharp, a half step to 3rd finger G, then a step over to the A string, a whole step up to B, a whole step up to C sharp, and finally a half step takes us back to D. Every major scale on your violin follows this same pattern. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now try saying that with me. Are you ready? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Did you notice where the half steps or the semitones were? Between notes 3 and 4 and notes 7 and 8 of the scale. If you split your major scale into 2 halves, the first 4 notes will have exactly the same finger pattern as the last 4 notes. If we think of that in terms of sol fa, mi and fa are your 3rd and 4th notes, they should be really close together, and ti and do are your 7th and 8th notes, again sounding really close together. Now that we've learned that D major scale, We can now play a scale starting on our G string, a G major scale, and a scale starting on our A string, an A major scale, and they will have exactly the same finger pattern as your D scale. Okay, I'm now going to play the G scale, then the A scale for you. Once I've played them, you can pause your videos and then you try playing those scales too. Pay close attention to your finger pattern. It should be exactly the same as you've used in the D scale. Now that you've got quite good at playing that G scale, if you go back and watch the video of me playing the scale, you can join in harmony. Let me start by playing the first two notes and then you start your scale on G. Don't worry if it's not perfect first time, just practice, use your ears, and in time it will get better. Here's what it should sound like. We're now going to try some different scales, ones that don't start in the open string, but they will use the same pattern of tones and semitones. They are still major scales. Before we start, let me show you a couple of exercises that will help you out. Okay, for our first exercise, it can be done on any string, but I'm going to play it on the D string, and what I'd like to do is find that third finger again. So remember your Do to your Fa. And I would simply like you to find your first finger, Re, and tune it in. Once you can do that, I'd like you to place your second finger behind the third, and then try pulling it back so it's beside the first. Slide it up to the third, pull it back beside the first. Just gently, yeah? No tension. Moving on to our second exercise, we're going to find that third finger again. Remember to use your ears. And then back to the first finger. So we went from Fa to Re. I would like you to keep both those fingers on the string, and without moving your third finger, we're going to use the bass knuckle of that first finger to pull it back towards the end of the violin's neck. And now for the third and final exercise with those fingers. Again, we're going to find finger 3, back to 1. So I now have again 1 and 3 on the string, and I'm simply going to put 2 behind 3. I can lift it back or slide it back. And then the same with finger 1, I'm going to slide that back. So I'm tuning back the way from finger 3. When I put all that together and I play those sounds, I then have to lift the third finger. I've got 3, 2, pulling 2 back, 1, 1 back, and then open D. These exercises have shown us how to lower our second and first fingers and at the same time keep a good hand shape. We're now going to move on and we'll look at some scales that use these low fingers. So for our final scale, I'm going to teach you the B flat scale an octave higher. That requires us to start with a low first finger on the A. So again, get your third finger relaxed above its position, pull your first finger back from the bass knuckle. There's your B flat, low 1. A whole step to C natural, which is a 2. A step to the third finger. And now we have to find that half step or semitone with a little finger right beside finger 3. Then we're going to repeat that pattern on the E string, move the arms across, low 1 in the E, space to 2, space to 3, and a low 4. That is a very, very important finger pattern because once you've learned that, you can use it almost anywhere on the violin. So that wraps it up for this video. Over the 3 videos we talked about lots of things. We talked about arm balance, finger positions, hand shapes, a little bit on the bow hold. All these things are very, very important. But when you do practice, try and break your practice up. Don't keep repeating things and not having a reason to do so. Think about why you're playing something, and you can practice something for a different thing each time. You might play a scale and you might think, well, I'm going to work on the tuning this time. Then play the same scale again and think, well, I'm going to really work on that hand shape now. Third time might be your sound, and so on. Always think of a different thing to practice for, and gradually it'll all come together and it'll start to sound fantastic. Thanks for watching. Beginners with Bob, and hope to see you all again soon.